Members, this is the appointed time and we have a quorum. So I call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Bills Committee on Gas Safety Amendment Bill 2025. Item 1, meeting with the administration. I will invite the administration to come in first. Members, please refer to the updated agenda dated the 8th of May for the following papers. First, the Legislative Council brief, EEB EBCR1/3231/25 issued in April 2025 by the Environment and Ecology Bureau and the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department. There is also a Legal Service Division report on the bill, that is LS 41/2025. Another background brief prepared by the Electrical Secretariat, CB-2847/2025-04. Let me welcome the administration into our room. Now I'd like to ask members whether we need to invite the public or stakeholders, deputations to write in for the bill. Mr. Gary Chan, I need to declare first of all that I am the Deputy Director of the Development Committee of the New Energy in Hong Kong for Sinopec. I think this is also on the electrical members register. So let me first declare this interest. If you agree, I will just declare my interest for this meeting, and then it will apply to subsequent meetings. Second point, I think we should invite stakeholders to submit their written views to us. I think this is more appropriate instead of having a public meeting which may affect the progress of our work. Right, thank you, Mr. Gary Chan. You've declared your interest. I think this will be effective till the end of the committee's work. Mr. Chan Sil-hong, I need to declare first of all that I'm a senior consultant of the CLP, and that this is a bill related to hydrogen as fuel, and the CLP is also engaged in this line of work in relation to energy from gases. So I need to declare this interest as well. Second, I fully agree with what Mr. Gary Chan said. Before drawing up this gas safety amendment bill, the administration already consulted stakeholders quite extensively. I think that these stakeholders may be interested in this final version of the bill, so we should invite written views from them. Any other views, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok? Chairman, I also support the members' view, and I support invitation for written views. Right. If there are no other views, I can sum up by saying that we all agree that written views should be invited. And in fact, according to paragraph 14 of the electrical brief, the EMSD already issued a consultation paper for the industry and conducted 2 consultation forums, 20 focus group meetings, as well as a questionnaire survey. The result shows that stakeholders are in general supportive of this regulatory framework laid down in the bill, and that this can help enhance the public's confidence in hydrogen as fuel. The administration also consulted the Panel on Environmental Affairs on the 20th of 2025. There is also broad support of the proposal by the panel. So I also agree that we should invite written views. This invitation will be posted by the Secretariat on the electrical website. It will also be published in the notice, and that the 18 district councils will also be informed, and that subsequently the views collected will be forwarded to the administration for a consolidated written response. So moving on, this Bills Committee will first discuss the overall merits and principles of the bill. Please note that the legal advisor of the Bills Committee issued a letter to the administration dated the 22nd of April 2025. That's CB Record 2847/2025 Record 02. The administration also gave a written response. That's CB Record 2847/2025 03. Now, let me invite the administration to unpick the bill for us. Members, if you want to speak, please press the request to speak button now. I will give the floor to the administration to start this presentation. I'll just say a few words first. Chairman, members, let me walk members through the objective of the Gas Safety Amendment Bill 2025 and the background first. In order to dovetail with the national target, we strive to cut carbon emission by half before 2035 and to achieve carbon neutrality before 2050. Hydrogen as energy has great potential as a new energy, and as such, we published the strategy on development of hydrogen in Hong Kong in June 2024. We'd like to take forward the 4 strategies to create a favorable environment for the development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong. Now, at the moment, hydrogen is regulated under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance, or CAP 295, as one of the Class 2 dangerous goods. However, for the use of hydrogen as fuel, as a form of new energy, the regulation framework is similar to the one laid down in Gas Safety Ordinance, or CAP 51. So this framework has been well established and familiar to the sector. So we propose to make 2 major amendments. The first one is to incorporate hydrogen as fuel into the safety regulatory regime. The second is to provide new provisions to make subsidiary legislation for the effective regulation of using hydrogen as fuel, including importation, manufacture, storage, transportation, supply, and use. We conducted extensive consultation, including local bodies, the sector. We also consulted the panel in electrical in January this year. Now, we have had broad support. Subject to passage of this amendment bill, we will first submit the proposal to the CE Council for scrutiny, and then by negative vetting, we'll also make regulation for electrical scrutiny later. So I will now give the floor to Mr. Zhang from the ENSD to walk you through the details of the bill. Thank you. I'll now take the floor and walk members through the amendment bill. First of all, let me explain the current legislative requirements. As mentioned, hydrogen is currently regulated as a compressed gas under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. As we all know, for the use of hydrogen as fuel, the current legislation does not fully regulate the safety risks involved. Now, I come to talk about CAP 51, Gas Safety Ordinance. It was introduced in 1991. The EMSD is the leading department in regulating the use of town gas, natural gas, and a mixture of them. In year 2000, we successfully extended this ordinance to cover the LPG vehicle scheme. We regulated the relevant taxis, minibuses. We also regulated the suppliers, storage system, repair maintenance systems, as well as LPG refueling stations and their operations. Now, with the rise of LPG in popularity as a fuel and also the rise of hydrogen as fuel, we see similarities in the supply chains of these 2 gases, and we believe that we should amend the Gas Safety Ordinance to enhance the effectiveness of the regulatory regime on the safe use of hydrogen energy. We set up an interdepartmental working group on using hydrogen as fuel. This working group has processed a series of hydrogen energy trial applications, and in fact, in principle, approvals have been given to 26 of them, including street washing vehicles and hydrogen refueling stations, hydrogen related generators, power generators, etc. We believe that a proper regulatory regime should be set up for the importation, manufacture, storage, transport, and supply and use of gas. We need to provide the sector with a clear regulatory framework and technical requirements so as to facilitate development of hydrogen energy locally. This proposal was first floated in the Policy Address 2024, and in light of that, the government is now laying into the Council this bill to regulate the use of hydrogen as fuel. There are two parts to the bill. The first is to extend the framework in CAP 51 Gas Safety Ordinance, that's the principal ordinance, to cover the use of hydrogen as fuel, and that's regulated hydrogen. There are 4 points relating to the amendment of CAP 51 GSO. First, we will include hydrogen used as fuel as regulated hydrogen, and that is used or intended to be used for the propulsion of a vehicle or train or operation of machinery. The second point is that we need to amend the definition of regulated or the definition of gas to cover regulated hydrogen. The third point is to empower the CE Council to make regulations by way of subsidiary legislation for hydrogen as fuel. We will also amend dangerous goods ordinance so that all gases will be excluded from the licensing requirement under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance, or DGO. I would invite members to take a look at the left-hand side of the screen. This regulated hydrogen will cover the 7 aspects: the quality of gas, registration of gas supply companies, construction and use of hydrogen installations, and also registration of the hydrogen fuel vehicle mechanics, and also permits for the transportation of hydrogen, etc. Now, the existing subsidiary legislation can be found on the right-hand side. You will see that the framework on the whole is basically similar. There will also be corresponding amendments to the DGO to avoid double regulation. Apart from the legislative aspect, the EMSD has also drawn up relevant codes of practice. They set out specific technical details and requirements. For example, we have a hydrogen or code of practice for hydrogen-fueled vehicles and maintenance workshops, code of practice for hydrogen filling stations, and also guidance note on a quantitative risk assessment study for hydrogen installation in Hong Kong. We've made reference to the practices overseas, and they are now applied to some of the hydrogen energy trial applications. I just refer to the COPs, etc., and in fact, we already consulted the sector on these proposed COPs. We received some feedback during the consultation period last year. The majority view is a general support for the amendment bill. This will provide greater confidence in the public for the use of hydrogen. We also conducted a study on the business impact, and we find that this legislative amendment will bring positive effects to the business environment. Now, about timetable, this bill will come into effect on a date specified by the Secretary for Environment and Ecology on a date published in the Gazette, and that for subsidiary legislation, they will be enacted by negative vetting, and that will submit the proposals within 2026. Now, let me take you through this flow chart. There are 5 steps from the use of production of hydrogen to the use of hydrogen in propelling vehicles. Hydrogen can be produced through extraction of hydrogen in town gas network or electrolysis. We can also import hydrogen from the mainland or from other places, and they can be transported and imported by land or by sea. So the relevant registration will be required, such as hydrogen installations, and that means hydrogen containers will be involved. We need to make use of the long pipe trailers or vehicles, and that a permit will be required for the operation of such vehicles. And then when the vehicle reaches the hydrogen filling station, again registration and permit will be required. The installations at the hydrogen filling station will also be subject to approval by the gas authority. And after the vehicles involved are filled with hydrogen, the vehicles will also require approval for the hydrogen system on board the vehicles. The last point is about maintenance workshops. Again, there are the relevant registration requirements for the workshops and the mechanics.
That's it for my presentation. Thank you for the presentation. I'll now open the floor for a Q&A session. Those who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. I'll read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Frankie Yik, Mr. Chen Hakan, Mr. Tang Yuzhe, Mr. Chan Xiu-hong, and Mr. Andrew Lam. All right. I'll assign a 5-minute time limit for the first round. If necessary, members can speak for the second round. I will now ask Mr. Frankie Yik to speak. Thank you, Chair. As an important new energy initiative to tie in with national policy, I support a regulatory regime being put in place. In the bill, you said specifically hydrogen will act as a fuel to propel vehicles, but it would exclude the machine or the fuel used for vessel or aircraft, the machinery of a vessel or aircraft. So how will you regulate hydrogen being used in such? And we will take a phased implementation approach from gray to blue to green eventually. And I think regardless of the type of hydrogen, you will be regulating them all the same. You won't be regulating the gas in balloons, right? You will only be regulating hydrogen in machinery and vehicles or trains. I also want to ask about the definitions. Say for manufacturer in Annex B, you did say for manufacture. A, it's understandable, but for B, it says that it would be from one container to another container. That would be transporting, right? It wouldn't be manufacturing. I am quite confused by this. Or if you're transferring from one tanker to another, it would just be transferring. It wouldn't be manufacture. I don't really understand. I also note for gas, it would be methanol and other chemicals. But then, say for B, it actually says for that all carbon. I'm very confused by this, honestly. Okay, that's it for my questions for now. Can you please answer these questions of mine first? Thank you. Thank you. I'll answer the questions part by part. Indeed. For vessels, we have Chapter 548, the Merchant Shipping Local Vessels Ordinance regulating the use of hydrogen in vessels. And after that, we have allowed through a bill last year various new energy fuels. We do not have hydrogen being used on aircrafts at the moment, so we consider there is no need to include that. Also, we do not specify in our regulatory regime what type of hydrogen it is, whether it's gray or blue hydrogen. Indeed, as for use of hydrogen in, say, balloons or laboratories, we will have regulation under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. I'll have the EMSD representative answer the other questions. Right now, balloons make use of helium. They don't necessarily use hydrogen. As for gas, they have various constituents. LPG. So basically, it can be of different constituents, say propane, as for the transport of LPG, in the Qingyi storage site, apart from storage, the LPG will also be transported from one tank to another tank, or a tanker from another tanker. So under this situation, we would include that in the definition of manufacturer. Well, thank you for your answer, but I just don't see how it is manufacturing, but I will not argue that. I also want to ask, for the LPG container, it seems that you have differentiated them by sizes. Why? I do not see anywhere how it is distinguished in different scenarios from the paper, but of course I can be mistaken. Well, we do have a definition differentiating the sizes of containers, which is why we have said there are different sizes. All right, thank you. Any further questions? I will ask a second round of questions. Thank you, Mr. Chen Hakan. I have some questions very similar to Mr. Frankie Yix. So you will be regulating vehicles and trains use of hydrogen, as well as machinery other than machinery of a vessel or aircraft. So we have regulation for use of hydrogen in vessels as well. And you said right now hydrogen is not used for aircraft. But then we are trying to develop low altitude economy, and drones want to be lighter. And I think there is a possibility in future hydrogen may be used for the propulsion of low altitude aircraft. If we exclude aircraft's use of hydrogen altogether in the regulatory regime, if we are to have hydrogen propelled aircraft in future for low altitude economy, would that pose restrictions to the development of such? Why not just include the use of hydrogen in aircrafts? And if you will exclude this in the end from the regulatory regime, would it be hard for you to include the use of hydrogen in aircraft in future? Would you need to amend legislation, or would you only need to have subsidiary legislation amended? I also want to share with you some observations from past experience. There was a case for the container approval. It apparently lies with the Labor Department. Would you have that power vested with the EMSD instead, so that we do not have to involve the Labor Department because it seemed that they were not involved in the process at other stages. Can you also provide some templates for the guidelines or the codes of practice? Thank you. Thank you. I will ask Mr. Wang to answer the question. Thank you. We will have the Labor Department only regulate steam and helium. The others will be regulated under this ordinance. We have also started setting out the relevant information in the EEB website. We can provide that to members after the meeting. As for the regulation of use of hydrogen in aircrafts, how it will be regulated. The gas safety ordinance will only regulate land operations. It will not regulate any sea or air operations in general, which is why for low altitude aircraft we will not be regulating the use of hydrogen and such. However, if aircrafts have to have hydrogen refueled, the operations of hydrogen filling stations will be regulated. What happens with the sea and air operations right now then? As I said earlier, we have Chapter 548, Merchant Shipping Local Vessels Ordinance regulating sea operations. As the Assistant Director from the EMSC said, for helium, it will be regulated under the Gas Safety Ordinance. Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions from Mr. Chen Ha-kun? If not, Mr. Ternise. Thank you. For the use of new energy, there is a need to have a regulatory regime. I want to clarify something that the administration said earlier. Because you need to regulate different aspects, say manufacture, conveyance. For the use, you would only regulate land-based operations, as you said. But I think there are some overlapping between the different ordinances. So I think you should clarify, one, if there's any regulation. I believe it is regulated in some way, but can you clarify what it is? And on top of regulation, we need to promote the use of hydrogen in the end. We have talked about how we would be setting standards. We would also train the relevant manpower. So can you tell us how you plan to make the best use of hydrogen by encouraging people to make use of it? What are your plans? You also say that you would promulgate some subsidiary legislation. That is very important, and we would have the implementation details in the subsidiary legislation. I hope that we can have a timeline as to when these will be promulgated. Because even if this bill comes into effect, if you do not have the specifics, it wouldn't work. I also want to ask the administration to talk about how the bill would offer flexibility. Mr. Frankie Yicks talked about how for filling stations, they would have transferring. I want to ask if there will be some flexibility if people use hydrogen. It's just like with electric vehicles. If you have to have more filling stations, I think you need to offer some flexibility for the operations of, say, heavy vehicles or commercial vehicles. There will be conveyance, and we need to make sure we are facilitating the users with the bill's provisions. Can you elaborate on the provisions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair just referred to promotion of the use of hydrogen as fuel. Well, I think this bill is of importance because it relates to the promotion of not just using hydrogen as fuel, but other forms of new energy as well. So this is about the whole supply and management chain. Can you tell us more about the use of new energy as well as the subsidiary legislation's enactment timetable? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member, for the questions. Apart from amending the gas safety ordinance, we've been making an all-out effort to promote the use of hydrogen as fuel. In June 2024, we published the strategy on the development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong. It comes with 4 directions, one of which is about the creation of a conducive environment. And we also set up in 2022 an interdepartmental working group on using hydrogen as a fuel to promote the local application of hydrogen as fuel. This working group seeks to remove red tape and promote local application of hydrogen energy. It gives technical advice, and as of now, the working group has given in principle approval for 26 projects, including a double-decker HFC bus, refuse collection vehicle, street washing vehicles, and also the refueling site. Now, on flexibility, apart from the tanker vehicles, we also have another trial project. That is, for example, extraction of gas from landfills and conversion into hydrogen energy. And we also have a pipeline, the town gas network, that can support certain portion of conversion into hydrogen energy. As for standards, etc., I will give the floor to my colleague. He will also talk about the implementation timetable. Well, thank you for the questions. Just now, a member asked about drone running on gas and importation of gas. Well, this bill captures the whole scenario, including the transportation of hydrogen to the drone hydrogen filling sites. We also work with the VTC. In collaboration, we've rolled out a course of 3 different levels to enhance the knowledge of practitioners on using hydrogen as fuel to cope with the registration requirements later. Now, on standards, we have promulgated 2 sets, one relating to the filling stations, the other to the hydrogen systems that the vehicles run on. Within this year, we should be able to promulgate these standards, and with technological developments, we'll continue to update and promulgate further standards. Just some quick follow-ups. I understand for the former you mentioned you have a plan to dovetail our standard with that of the mainland by 2027. So can you tell us about the timetable? I understand that our goal is to align our standards with the mainland standards. The second point is about subsidiary legislation. Do you have a timetable? Our goal is to submit subsidiary legislation proposals to LegCo for scrutiny by negative vetting. Perhaps I will give the floor to the MSD to explain this further. In 2027, we seek to establish a certification system. Yes, please, just very briefly. We are working with the state of, the state market supervision administration, and that's a state administration for market regulation. We strive to launch this framework for certification in 2027. Any follow-up question? I think I'll wait for another round. Next, Mr. Chen Sil-hong. Hydrogen is one major source of green energy, and the technology is relatively mature. It has been applied quite extensively around the world, even in the mainland. And of course, like Mr. Frankie said, we need to differentiate the different types of hydrogen, such as gray, blue, or green hydrogen. But regardless of the color or the source, Hong Kong needs to catch up. We need to keep ourselves abreast with the times. Without a proper legislative framework, we will be missing out. 2 years ago, a franchise bus company introduced HFC double-deckers into Hong Kong. Because of the legislative constraints, this bus could not run in the streets. It could not even be used in a tunnel. Now, with the concerted efforts, we're now seeing results. Apart from the aforementioned double-decker plying tunnels, we now see some 20+ trial applications being approved. I'm happy to see this bill finally reaching the Legislative Council. Now, I have two questions. The first is this. Even before the law is amended, some 20 trial applications have already been approved. In what way are they able to conduct trials? Have you given special consideration to these applications? Because there are suggestions as to how they should be regulated. Should they be regulated under the DGO since you haven't amended the gas safety ordinance? So please elucidate this for the benefit of the public, whether it's a regulatory loophole. The second question is this. The administration has proposed to amend Cap 51, the gas safety ordinance, and that the definition will be amended. It will be incorporated into the ordinance to differentiate the use of hydrogen as fuel and as non-fuel. The Dangerous Goods Ordinance now regulates hydrogen as non-fuel. When hydrogen is used as fuel to propel vehicles or power generators, then it will fall outside the scope of the DGO in the future. However, there are still ambiguities about a manufacture, importation of hydrogen, etc. Apart from that, the tankers will also be regulated. Now, for example, if this tanker carries hydrogen as fuel when it offloads hydrogen at the hydrogen filling station, then that's very clear. Apparently, the hydrogen is used as fuel, but then this tanker may then go somewhere else and offload hydrogen for use for other purposes, say to a lab or to a power company. So how do you draw the line? Hydrogen can be used as a coolant, for example. So where should the line be drawn? Will there be any loophole in between the two pieces of legislation? Or otherwise, if both ordinances capture the same scenario, there will be a duplication of the framework. Right, so there are two questions. First, on the trial applications, and second, and the legal basis, and also the second question, definitions and the relevant legal basis. Thank you, Chair. The Interdepartmental Working Group has approved 26 trial applications so far, and they are some of these are regulated under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. The purpose of establishing the Interdepartmental Working Group is to give technical advice to some of these applications, and as such, we have issued guidelines and codes of practice to cover the gaps. As for the regulation of different matters in the bill, such as containers, etc., I'll give the floor to my colleague. Now, we work very closely with the Fire Services Department. We have a clear delineation between regulating hydrogen as fuel and non-fuel. For example, the FSD regulates hydrogen containers in which hydrogen is used as non-fuel, and the relevant vehicles will be identified by different labels. Now, a follow-up question. Say if I have this hydrogen propelled tanker that carries hydrogen cylinders to some workshops for using hydrogen as part of the cooling system, then how do you differentiate whether hydrogen is used as fuel or non-fuel? This tanker is to be regulated by the EMSD because hydrogen is used as fuel to propel the vehicle. As for hydrogen cylinders, hydrogen therein is used as non-fuel, so it's regulated by the FSD. Now, this vehicle is registered as one for carrying hydrogen, so it comes under the FSD's purview as well as a dangerous goods vehicle. Will there be inconsistencies between the two pieces of legislation? Is harmonization needed? Have you looked into that? I think the law is very clear. There is no loophole or double regulation. Administratively, we will work closely with the Department of Justice. Will ensure smooth operation. Chairman, I think you just asked a very good question. We're concerned about clear guidelines. The legal framework should be clear enough for the public and for the sector so that everybody understands what regulates which activities, and, for example, what operations should come under the regulation of the Gas Safety Ordinance, what should come under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. We don't want any confusion as to the authority regulating this matter, whether it should be the FSD or the EMSD. So I think that we will discuss further when we reach the clause-by-clause scrutiny. The second point is this. I think you've given an answer, but I don't think the answer is clear enough for the benefit of the public. So would you consider perhaps after the meeting or at the next meeting providing us with some illustrations like this PowerPoint slide, tell us what scenarios would be captured by the DGO and what would be captured by the amended GSO. I think we need these pictorial illustrations to get a better understanding of the framework.
Thank you, Mr. Chen Siu-hong. Mr. Chen Siu-hong's suggestion is very much valid because we need to make sure the public understands how things work as well. Can you provide some examples and maybe with illustrations next time for the public's reference after this meeting? And I believe Mr. Chen Siu-hong will speak for the second round. All right, let's move on to Mr. Andrew Lam. I do support the regulation of use of hydrogen, but if we talk about the bill, you have been emphasizing how for the supply chain of gases in general would be similar, so it would also apply to hydrogen. Basically, it's how what is illustrated on your PowerPoint slide work. Manufacturing and conveyance and whatnot. So I want to ask, since hydrogen is just a gas, why not just expand the definition of gases to include hydrogen? Why do you have to make so many amendments? Say in the brief, you have to regulate hydrogen and you have to exclude regulated hydrogen from, say, the definitions of gas main, insulation pipe, etc. So why does hydrogen get a special treatment compared to other gases? As other colleagues asked, we have different pieces of legislation regulating sea, land, and air operations. I would say this hydrogen is being used in different scenarios. Some may not have been in place in Hong Kong, but there are many different scenarios. Hydrogen may be used as a fuel. But for, say, hydrogen lamps, they will not be used as fuel, but it will be propelling, say, a balloon in some way. But if we have sea, land, and air operations specifically, how will hydrogen be regulated in these three categories? Would it be the case that it may involve multiple departments for a single operation with different pieces of legislation governing the operations? Thank you. Mr. Arthur Lee. Thank you. The supply chain of hydrogen is like other gases, as said, but we are excluding regulated hydrogen from some of the definitions because town gas and LPG have domestic uses. Hydrogen is basically only used to operate machinery and propel vehicles or trains. As for sea, land, and air operations of hydrogen, right now we do not have any air operations. If hydrogen is used to propel, say, a balloon or a hot air balloon, it will be governed by the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. I'll see if my colleagues have anything to add in relation to sea, land, and air operations. I think there are different interpretations of, say, a balloon taking flight or not, whether it is regarded as an air operation. We have before balloons being fueled, but then sometimes it may not be classified as fuel, right? So how will you define the different scenarios? Whether something is a fuel, I would say this. There are different risks. If a particular material is being used as a fuel, it will be regulated under the Gas Safety Ordinance. If it is not used as a fuel or it is treated as a non-fuel, it will be regulated under Dangerous Goods Ordinance. I don't think Mr. Andrew Lam is satisfied with this answer, but since your time is up, please ask your questions in the second round. Mr. Tan Ka Piu. I think the bill is a signal that we will promote the use of hydrogen as a new energy fuel in transport. The Secretary on different occasions mentioned something related to this. I want to ask, for the policy intent, we have talked about conveyance and use of hydrogen mostly. Would we have applications in terms of manufacturing as well? Because we haven't talked about this as much. Can we have large-scale manufacturing, mass manufacturing of hydrogen to facilitate the use of hydrogen? We want to be forward-looking. We can't really manufacture hydrogen at very low prices. I think we can achieve a breakthrough by tapping into the potential of green hydrogen. And as we can demonstrate our capabilities of manufacturing green hydrogen, we then can set the standards and promote the use of green hydrogen. Before we would have secondary evaluation for drugs in Hong Kong, that has really slowed us. Compared to Singapore, we are very slow because Singapore can undertake primary evaluation of drugs. Now we have removed that barrier and we can do primary evaluation ourselves. So I'm thinking, since we have great R&D capabilities, can we be pioneers in development of hydrogen? We can start from manufacturing, and then we can do with setting standards as well as certification. What is the administration's plan in this regard? Thank you. Mr. Arthur Lee, Commissioner. Thank you. We have a relatively high population density. It is hard for us to become a hub for manufacturing hydrogen, but we do have some pilot applications to try to manufacture green hydrogen in Hong Kong. We have tried in a landfill how we can convert waste to green hydrogen. So this is the direction we're taking. We want to test different applications with reference to the unique advantages of Hong Kong to facilitate green transformation and achieve carbon neutrality. We have drafted the bill with this in mind, and once we have this bill come into effect and when the timing is right, when the market develops further, we can use hydrogen on a large scale, and I believe that is the most beneficial to the market. I don't think Mr. Tenkapu's questions extend further than what you have provided in your reply. Would you be able to provide some sort of plans for infrastructure for certification in future? There are different types of hydrogen, gray, blue, and green hydrogen. We do have a certification system in mind for hydrogen, for the different types of hydrogen. I'll let the colleague from the EMSD talk about the details. Thank you. The EMSD started a pilot project in green hydrogen certification. We have referred to the practices in different places. We have seen the mainland as well as the EU moving fast in this regard. We will refer to the practices in both places because they are somewhat different and apply them locally when developing a certification system. I believe the system we will develop in future will be recognized by both mainland China and the EU. We hope that by 2027 we will be able to promulgate a certification network for green hydrogen. We have already been liaising with mainland authorities on this, so I think we will be recognized very early on by mainland China, and I think we will get recognition from the EU in due course as well. Would you need to amend legislation to promulgate that framework? No, that's not necessary. Thank you. Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Chair. The Gas Safety Amendment Bill 2025 will promote development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong, bringing about new opportunities. I do note that the new subsidiary legislation would cover some registration procedures, including the permits for manufacturing, conveyance of hydrogen. It will also mean for registration for relevant personnel. Does the administration know approximately how much personnel there are, how many companies there are that will have to be regulated in future? I also note that for hydrogen system as well as training for personnel noted in the brief, as the administration said earlier, hydrogen will be used on a large scale in future. We need to make sure we train the relevant personnel, especially those in maintenance. We had a problem a few years ago for electric vehicles. Maintenance would take as long as 6 months because we had a shortage of maintenance personnel. I do note the administration has been working with professional organizations and some companies to provide some safety training courses. MOUs have also been signed with some organizations as well as mainland authorities. I want to ask if we have made any progress in terms of manpower training, and what is the administration's plan for training in the next 5 to 10 years? Thank you.
Mr. Lok asked 2 questions about human resources. Mr. Lee? About the registration of and training of personnel, I will give the floor to the EMSD. About registration of the companies involved will adopt the same or similar mechanism for the importation of natural gas or LPG. They're similar in number. That means at the moment there aren't many companies with such means to import hydrogen into Hong Kong. So the number of registrations should be similar. Any figures you can provide? I think around 8 to 10. Using hydrogen as fuel is an emerging technology, so as the HFC vehicles. So basically, the suppliers provide their own training. They train up roughly dozens of individuals. As for training courses, we are in the process of discussing with the VTC. The first cohort will begin at the end of this year. As for the advanced level courses in phase 2, they will be rolled out next year. Right, any follow-up? Next, Ms. Doreen Kong. I have a number of questions. Chairman, according to the administration, some matters will be regulated by the GSO, some will be regulated by the DGO. I think it is undesirable to have this kind of ambiguity here, because members of the public in general will not understand the distinction. Will there be some matters regulated under both pieces of legislation? Will there be a legal vacuum in some of the cases? So, Chairman, I'd like to ask administration to elucidate, with the help of some papers, can you provide a supplementary paper to explain exactly what scenarios will be covered by legislation A and what by legislation B? Perhaps you can also cite guidelines already published on your website to explain that the public now has a very clear understanding of the matter. Now, I'd like to pick up on what Mr. Frankie Yik referred to. I understand that this bill covers regulated hydrogen. Frankly, in other places, not many jurisdictions have enacted legislation on hydrogen. So, according to the administration's definition, gas that is primarily hydrogen, used or intended to be used, say, for the propulsion of vehicle, etc. Do you think that this definition is clear enough? Also, referring to the practices in other jurisdictions, though they also promote using hydrogen as fuel, they do not have any specific distinction in a piece of legislation referring exactly this kind of hydrogen as regulated hydrogen. So I'd like to take things from another perspective. Do you think that this bill actually hampers the development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong? I want to know whether at the macro level the amendment bill can indeed support the strategy of hydrogen energy development in Hong Kong. Right, perhaps you should focus on the matter of definition. For question 1, please be brief. I think that we've heard a number of members making the same suggestion. On the next occasion, you should prepare a slide for the benefit of members as well as the public. It will also help you educate the public later. For hydrogen as non-fuel, it is regulated under the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. as one of the regulated gases. The Gas Safety Ordinance, meanwhile, regulates the safe use of certain gases as fuel. We're going to promulgate guidelines to help the public differentiate the two separate regulatory regimes. The EMSD can tell us more about the respective definitions. Thank you, Chair. The definition of regulated hydrogen can be found in this amendment bill. If hydrogen is used as fuel, then it's captured by this amendment bill. The rationale is this: there are different levels of risks when hydrogen is used as fuel and non-fuel. Say if hydrogen is used as non-fuel, it's of very low pressure. When hydrogen is used as fuel, however, it's pressurized by 350 times when filled inside the tank of a vehicle. Because of this different levels of risk, we need to have separate regulation of hydrogen as fuel. For hydrogen as non-fuel, it remains under the regulatory framework in the dangerous goods ordinance. I think this is familiar to the sector as well. To answer the last question, the interdepartmental group has approved the trial of 26 projects covering different types of applications of hydrogen. And it is on the basis of these local application projects that we propose the amendment bill, which should capture the future application scenarios in Hong Kong. And this bill will totally support the development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong. Ms. Doreen Kong, any follow-up? No? Mr. Denslow. Thank you, Chairman. This bill marks a very important milestone for the use of hydrogen as fuel in the future. I think in Hong Kong we can produce hydrogen locally. Does the government have any long-term plan about the production of hydrogen? Has a site been reserved? In terms of the manufacturing base, at this stage, will arrangements be made? My next point is about application of hydrogen. A franchise bus company is trying out a HFC double-decker. Some maintenance staff may be involved. In the long run, we need we cannot just rely on individual institutions to provide training. In terms of maintenance in workshops, for the management, mechanics, technicians involved, has the amendment bill captured registration of these individuals? More importantly, in the sector, we have engineering professionals in the field of town gas or LPG asking the same questions. They want to know whether training courses are available for them to acquire the necessary skills for the purpose of transformation in the future. So that's a question for the administration to say more on the human resources to cope with future development. Thank you. The interdepartmental working group has approved some projects as mentioned. One of these projects involve conversion of gas at landfills into hydrogen energy. We will keep closely in view the effectiveness of this application, there will also be suitable assistance at the next stage. As for maintenance, I will give the floor to the EMSD. Thank you, Chair, for the questions. On training, in the middle of this year, together with the VTC, we will roll out the first course to help the sector train talents. This is a basic course. In the end of this year or next year, an advanced level course will be rolled out to provide further training to these professionals. But before these courses are launched, we need training for those working at the hydrogen filling stations or operating the HFC buses. The manufacturer provides internal training to the staff. We'll also keep in view the situation. Any follow-up? No, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok. I want to ask about manpower. Now, after the passage of the bill, you need to follow up on a number of matters. Basically, you're starting from scratch. So my question is about additional resources available so that professionals can be engaged to help you take it forward. So can you tell us, after passage of the bill, when the new law comes into effect, what additional resources will be available and how will these resources be allocated? The second question is this. According to your reply, the VTC will run some courses. That is, of course, a feasible option. However, isn't it true that professionals are already available, at least within the government, to help vet new courses and provide advice so that trainees of these courses will be sufficiently equipped with the skills and knowledge to help promote the use of HFC vehicles in the future? I will take the first question and I'll give the floor to my colleague for the second question. About manpower, with the passage of the bill, there will be additional work involved, such as registration of staff, vetting of applications, inspection of workshops, etc. We will review the existing manpower arrangement and optimize our workflow with the use of technology. We do envisage more hydrogen application trial projects coming on stream, and that means more regulatory work will be undertaken. We'll ensure that there will be sufficient manpower to support the work. To answer the second question, whether we have sufficient staff within the government to on hydrogen energy development, now in fact 3 years ago we started looking into this development. So in the past 3 years, our team has gone on visits and study tours. We've also taken part in different training courses. And as a result of on-job training, visits, study tours, we have been able to acquire knowledge. At the same time, we also work with different organizations to help our colleagues better equip with professional knowledge, including knowledge about international standards or the mainland standards. Just a quick follow-up, Chairman. In other words, the government does not have a plan to increase manpower to help to take forward this bill. Is it true that you will keep in view the situation and decide whether to provide additional manpower?
Do we have enough manpower? I think we will make sure upon regulation we will have enough manpower. Any follow-up questions from Mr. Lai Tong Kwok? None? Alright. Last to speak would be me. I have some questions very similar to those of Mr. Chan He-kun and Mr. Andrew Lam for sea, land, and air operations of hydrogen. We do see the administration planning to regulate the whole workflow of hydrogen. That would include hydrogen fuel cell, the use of hydrogen mainly in vehicles, land-based transport options specifically. But I think we really need to accommodate, as Mr. Chan He-kun mentioned, low altitude economy aircraft applications. Also, as Mr. Andrew Lam said, we may have some that are in between. Some can travel between land and air. So when an aircraft is grounded, it may be regarded as a land operation, but then an aircraft, when it is in the air, and it is still a container of hydrogen, essentially, the ordinance will not be able to regulate this. Hydrogen is an important carrier of energy in new energy transport. I think this is a loophole if we have these scenarios in future. So how will we follow up on this in future if we are to accommodate such uses? Are we supposed to amend legislation, or what exactly are we going to do? Thank you. Commissioner. Thank you. Mainly we see hydrogen being used in land-based applications. We want to regulate the use of hydrogen so as to facilitate our green transformation and achievement of carbon neutrality. Our bill will be able to regulate the uses we have in mind. But if we look to the future, we do understand there may be other possible scenarios. We will keep in close view the situation and see if it is necessary to amend legislation. Thank you. I think the amendments we have in the bill are very clear, but it is limited in a way because it only accounts for existing applications, not at all future applications. Alright? Many members have spoken on this because we have hydrogen being an important part of new energy transport in future. I have seen all members of this bills committee have spoken once, and I do know a number of members want to speak for the second round. As this is an important topic, I will again allow a very generous time limit for members to speak for the second round. I will assign a 5-minute time limit again, Mr. Tony Zet. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I thank the administration for providing comprehensive answers to my questions in the first round. Their answers essentially told me there would be guaranteed safety in operations of hydrogen. They also plan to promote the use of hydrogen in future. They also gave me an inkling of what their future plans are. I want the administration to elaborate on its policy. The administration said they would promote Hong Kong to be a demonstration base for hydrogen applications. The administration would work with other cities to develop hydrogen energy. Can you tell us what the latest progress of the initiative is? Thank you. Administration. Thank you, Mr. Dare, for your questions. Our strategy is this. We want to develop Hong Kong into a demonstration base for hydrogen applications because that would leverage on our advantages of having connectivity with both the mainland and the rest of the world. We have been working with mainland authorities closely. We have a standing communication channel with Guangdong. It is a group that would specifically respond to climate change, involving cooperation between Guangdong and Hong Kong. We are also working with other authorities to develop standards within the Greater Bay Area. We have also been working with the Foshan government closely. In March of this year, we had a hydrogen forum that engaged different parties in the mainland, including suppliers and authorities. We also participated in a mainland hydrogen forum to further cooperation and engage with suppliers to develop Hong Kong as a demonstration base for hydrogen applications. Chair, I have some follow-up questions. I thank the Commissioner for providing more information. From what I heard, he mainly talked about how we would have further cooperation with the mainland, but we also need to have collaboration with the rest of the world. Hong Kong as an international financial center with the advantage of practicing one country, two systems. We have an advantage to become a demonstration base with our connections in different parts of the world. I don't think the Commissioner touched on this at all, and I think this is very important. I have some supplementary information to provide, Chair. We do have collaboration with different parts of the world. A pilot application of hydrogen would be hydrogen buses. If you have noted recent media reports, a manufacturer for hydrogen buses had some projects in the Middle East simply because they were discovered in Hong Kong for their hydrogen applications. We hope to demonstrate to different parts of Hong Kong with our hydrogen applications. If they are approved in Hong Kong, they are recognized as safe, and suppliers can make use of Hong Kong as a springboard to tap into more market opportunities. Apart from hydrogen buses, do you have more information on how Hong Kong is used as a demonstration base? With different forums, we have been promoting hydrogen applications, and for the conversion of landfill gas into hydrogen, we also have a center with an exhibition to tell members of the public what our latest breakthrough is. Thank you. Any follow-up questions from Mr. Tony Zhe? None. Thank you. We want to have standards that are recognized by the mainland as well as the EU and maybe other places. Therefore, it is very important for us to develop Hong Kong as a demonstration base because that would facilitate that. I think the members' questions are very much valid. I think the administration should note his comments. Thank you, Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. I thank the chairman for allowing a second round of questions. I think we have to be prudent, especially when we go into clause-by-clause examination, because we need to have regard to the role of Hong Kong in future in development of hydrogen. We need to think about market promotion as well as certification. I think the administration's stance is erring on the side of caution. The Secretary for Environment and Ecology had in the strategy of hydrogen development in Hong Kong 4 strategies. We have enhancing legislation. We also have market promotion, etc. When we talk about today, we are trying to amend legislation, improve legislation. We will also be aligning standards in future according to the administration. But we need to exercise prudence because we do not expect to use hydrogen in a large scale at the moment because it is not safe. If there is an accident, that is probably the end of the road for hydrogen. So we have to be prudent. I did hear some members say the scope of regulation is limited in the bill. I do understand where they're coming from, but I do want some elaboration from the administration. If we amend legislation as said in the bill, we will be regulating importation, manufacturing, storage, transport, supply, and use of hydrogen for the propulsion of a vehicle or train or machinery. We have eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing technology. We have such applications being quite mature, especially in Hebei of mainland China. And I think we should accommodate this because the technology is at an advanced stage now. We have in eVTOL making use of hydrogen energy. It is being piloted in many different places. Whether it is seen as being used on a massive scale, everyone would have a different interpretation. With an aircraft like such, when it's on ground, it will be regulated, but when it is lifted in the air, it will not be regulated. Since we already have the working group on developing low altitude economy led by the Deputy Financial Secretary, we should have the working group consider legislation for eVTOL applications as well. It will not be difficult. We only need to amend Chapter 448G, Small Unmanned Aircraft Order. And right now, gas safety bill would regulate the land-based operations of such aircrafts. And then if we can amend the SUA order, it will be regulating air-based operations. It seems to be quite convenient. We should exercise prudence, but then we should also have a plan for the future. That's what I'm saying. Thank you. Can you answer Mr. Chen Xiu-hong's questions on definitions and the justifications for your amendments in this bill, and Mr. Chen Xiu-hong's suggestion, because it's very much valid? Thank you.
I thank Mr. Chan Xiu Hong for his suggestions. These are very good ideas. For hydrogen on board a vessel, it is regulated under CAP 548. For an aircraft, related matter in terms of refilling and construction on land or battery or the HFC batteries, they should come under another piece of legislation. When it's up in the air, again another piece of legislation. Chairman, will I be allowed the third round because I still have some more questions to ask? Then please make sure that the questions are short so that we have ample time for discussion. Next, Mr. Frankie Yee. Mr. Tony Jie just now asked whether we will turn Hong Kong into a demonstration zone for HFC. Now, according to Secretary Mr. Jie, if I remember correctly, there are more than a dozen such trial projects. So definitely, these projects can help set up this demonstration zone. Heavy-duty vehicles are involved. We also see applications relating to cross-boundary heavy vehicles and also construction sites. I think one important role is to converge international standards and mainland standards for HFCs so that we have a proper standardization and testing mechanism for enterprises to tap international markets. Now, this paper sets out the way forward, but I think there is still a lot more we should work on in the future. My next question is about the primary meter in your definition section for LPGs. Now, I'd like to follow up on the methanol bunkering. Some vessel companies are concerned about the accuracy of the meters for bunkering because we need accurate meters to ensure that they don't get cheated. Fuel is expensive. So about hydrogen filling stations, how do you ensure accuracy of the meters there? Is there anything to regulate the calibration of the refilling nozzles at the hydrogen filling stations? Are there ISO standards to go by to give assurance? Because I don't see these matters mentioned in your paper. The EMSD can tell us more about meters. Thank you for the question. The Gas Safety Ordinance regulates safety of gases. Regulation of flow meters does not come under this piece of legislation. But we understand that there are international standards already developed. Calibration and testing will be required before the meters are put to use. So there are standards to follow, yes, international or mainland standards. Any follow-up questions? No? Next, Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you, Chairman. Safety is of paramount importance. Every year, still, we heard about people getting injured in gas safety related incidents. Home use gas, LPG cylinders, or in fact in 2016 a major explosion occurred at the LPG garage. So an incident has to do with the installation, the equipment, or how this is operated. I've heard your presentation. I think that this is not forward-looking enough. The first point is that where possible, you should expedite the development. when time is ripe. The second point is to expand the application or use case scenarios in Hong Kong to show the world that Hong Kong is a demonstration zone. This is what I mean by forward looking. We want to bring real changes. I've been concerned about this for many years. We have this very famous island, Dong Peng Chau and Po Toi Island, without the supply of power or other network. And if we want to apply hydrogen as fuel, we can first use these islands as demonstration zones because this will bring drastic changes. And this is something that Hong Kong people will understand. Don't call it blue sky thinking, because like you said, extracting landfill gases isn't really well, as you mentioned, landfill is not the state-of-the-art waste management approach nowadays, and we don't have any room to further expand landfills. So if we're able to do something more state-of-the-art, like turning waste into energy in Shek Kwu Chau, then we should help drop standards and make Hong Kong a demonstration zone. These may not be directly related to the bill, but I think these are matters really close to the heart of members. Thank you, Mr. Tang, for the questions. In June last year, we rolled out the strategy on development of hydrogen energy in Hong Kong. It sets out 4 major strategies with a view to creating an environment conducive to the development of hydrogen in Hong Kong. Now, we also set up the interdepartmental working group. Through this working group, we promote more use cases of hydrogen in Hong Kong, including hydrogen as power supply at the construction site. We are trying out a hydrogen installation to supply power in place of more polluting power generation methods such as diesel generated units. We also have the Green Tech Fund and New Energy Transport Fund called Net Fund. We want to incentivize the sector to try new technologies. This fund also supports promotional efforts for the public to know more about hydrogen energy. So we take these 4 strategies as a core in promoting hydrogen development in Hong Kong. Thank you, Chair. I now understand specifically that apart from trying out hydrogen power generation at construction sites, no trial is being conducted on using hydrogen to supply electricity on some of these famous islands in Hong Kong. So will you consider conducting this trial? I mean, we welcome applications on using hydrogen as power generation source at places currently without power supply. This is exactly a very good example of promoting hydrogen development in Hong Kong. Thank you. Now, Mr. Bill Tang just now asked this question already asked by other members, that is about expansion and use cases. Now, the administration explained that a trial is currently conducted on a construction site. But like Mr. Bill Tang said, what about trying it out on an island currently without power supply? Is it possible to generate energy with hydrogen there? Because this is something that the public can have access. It's not like a construction site sealed off. If we're able to try this out on the island, it will also promote island tourism. So do go back and give it a thought. yes, we will explore the feasibility with the appropriate authorities. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. I'd like to follow up on the last point. Many members talked about our positioning, our forward-looking policies, and our goal as a demonstration zone for hydrogen energy. Now, this is the message that we want to send out to the public. Coming back to the use cases, as I learned from the government's reply, that would like to focus on land transport. I don't think these two tally. What is the reason of not adopting a forward-looking approach in your legislative amendment? Is it because you want to focus on existing land transport? If this is your answer, I will be very disappointed as a member of the public in the government's lack of efforts in promoting Hong Kong as a hydrogen energy demonstration zone. I don't need an answer from you now, but do give me a written answer once you've mulled it over. The second point is about hydrogen as non-fuel, and there is a distinction between the two. I've looked at the DGO and the GSO. I don't see the definition of the word fuel. Now, I ask this question because I just now asked about the source of power for propelling certain machinery or equipment, and we talked about lifting, elevating devices, and if it runs on purely gas, then there is no need to put it under control. I haven't heard a consistent answer. Well, in fact, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok also referred to the same point. It is said that we should look at the Oxford Dictionary's definition. I don't think we should take this general interpretation approach. When we come to the clause-by-clause scrutiny stage, you definitely have to answer this complicated question. So do consider giving it a definition. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, member, for the questions. From the policy's perspective, we don't just seek to promote the use of hydrogen at sea and on land. If we can find a suitable application, we'll also promote using hydrogen in the air. Whereas, as far as this bill is concerned, we would like to focus on what is set out here. There is another piece of legislation to deal with using hydrogen for aircrafts. Definition of fuel. Now, in fact, you will find this definition in the bill, including, and it goes like this: the substance that can propel vehicles, train, or other machinery. Chairman, sorry, I'd like to pick up on the first answer. I mean, we're not in a parallel universe. We talked about the different applications of hydrogen at sea, on land, in air, and I also mentioned machines that can run both on land and at sea, etc., etc. And according to your answer, I don't think that you're being forward-looking. If you think that this kind of distinction is sufficient, then the message that I want to give is that policy-wise, it's not clear enough. The second point is this. Take hydrogen-propelled vessels as an example. The vessel is not propelled by the balloon, or not simply by the balloon. So does it mean that for the hydrogen used to inflate the balloon or the fuel used to propel the vessels, they will not be captured by the bill?
I'll ask the assistant director to answer the questions. Let me take the example of LPG. We have some hot air balloons being propelled by LPG. For LPG, for the conveyance and the containers, the EMSC would vet the relevant applications in future. If we are to use hydrogen to propel aircrafts or hot air balloons for land operations, we will again be vetting the relevant applications. Chair, I am not trying to criticize anyone there, but I think they are just giving me a really convoluted reply to circumvent the issue. So, with a hydrogen propelling a hot air balloon, it is just taking off or landing between land and air. It is not that it is propelled per se by hydrogen. So they have given me various answers that do not really address my questions. I'm kind of concerned now. Well, such operations should be regulated by the Dangerous Goods Ordinance. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Lam, and other members who have spoken in the second round. I think the administration needs to review the definition of fuel. Definitions are very important in law, and I think this issue will be carried forward to the clause by clause examination of the bill if you don't address it. We have different gases being regulated: town gas, natural gas, LPG. We do understand the need to make amendments in the gas safety ordinance to accommodate hydrogen, but then I don't think it accommodates the diversity of hydrogen and its great potential, because town gas, natural gas, and LPG are relatively limited in their uses. If we treat hydrogen just like town gas, natural gas, and LPG, there are problems. As other members said, it may not accommodate the future developments of hydrogen. I think the administration has to tackle this issue. After the meeting, we will follow up on this. That's it for the second round. We had many members speak for the second round. We still have some time, and to have a more thorough discussion, I will allow for a third round. I will have a shorter time limit for this round. I'll assign a 3-minute time limit. We have Mr. Chen Su-hong wanting to speak for this third round. Mr. Chen Su-hong, please. Thank you. Chair, many members raised concerns about the amendments to the gas safety ordinance because definitions will be very important in regulating gases, especially hydrogen. If we're talking about town gas, hydrogen takes up 49 to 51% of town gas. So you said for the regulatory regime, you will be regulating gas that is primarily hydrogen. So how would you define primarily? If you have something over 50%, town gas would already be covered. Or are you talking about hydrogen, primarily hydrogen being, there are a number of gases, hydrogen accounting for the highest percentage of all the gases in that gas in particular. I think there may be different interpretations of primarily. Can the administration elaborate on this now? And as the chairman said, we will be scrutinizing closely the definitions when we go into clause-by-clause examination. So I think it would be beneficial for the administration to elaborate on the definition of primarily now. Thank you. I will ask the Assistant Director from the EMSD to answer this question. Thank you, Chair. Primarily hydrogen, what percentage we're going to adopt? For the practices of mainland China and other places, hydrogen would be 99% or even over 99% of a gas, and I believe most of products that are making use of hydrogen energy are also designed to be over 99%. In future, if we see lower than 99%, say for hydrogen fuel cell, if they are designed to use hydrogen less than 99%, they will have a much shorter battery life. That's why we will designate in future that the hydrogen fuel cell will have to adopt mainland standards that would be over 99.97% or at least over a certain threshold above 99%. I would say this, if we are converting water to hydrogen, we would also require the hydrogen to be quite pure in that sense. And we have seen technologies being quite advanced that we can stably extract that much hydrogen or hydrogen in that almost pure form. We will keep in view of future developments, and we already consider the development of technology at the moment, and we have set this standard. You say only a gas that is primarily hydrogen. You would not specify the percentage. You would just, according to you, adopt industry standards of over 99%. If you don't include this in your definition, would you at least include such information in your future guidance notes or codes of practice? Again, it's about being forward-looking. We now see most of the products or gases being over 99% hydrogen. We, as I said earlier, have town gas that is 50% hydrogen, and if we are to have technology advanced enough to make use of only town gas to power some operations, it can be used as a fuel in future with technological breakthroughs. Would your provisions in the bill be able to accommodate such situation? That is, if we have other technological advancements, you will then amend legislation. If that is the approach that you're taking, I think it is, as Mr. Andrew Lam said, you are not being forward-looking enough. Assistant Director. As Mr. Chen said, we are going to promulgate some codes of practice and guidance notes. We will actually give some details in the subsidiary legislation as well as the guidelines. We will offer some flexibility in subsidiary legislation and guidelines. Thank you. Any further comments from Mr. Chen Su-hong? I would say this: if we are making use of subsidiary legislation to talk about the standards and guidelines, I consider this approach reasonable, because for Chapter 51, in implementation, because the trade is quite experienced with the operations of the ordinance, it should not be hard for them to take up new regulations. But I urge the administration to provide adequate training and conduct publicity campaigns when the timing is right. Anything to add from the administration? None? Alright, Mr. Frankie Yik also wants to speak for the third round. If members do not object, I would like to extend the meeting by 15 minutes to allow Mr. Frankie Yik to speak for the third round. Alright, thank you, Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you. According to Mr. Wong, the purity is very important, because if it is not pure enough, the hydrogen fuel cell will not work as well. And the assistant director said in future there would be guidelines. I think this is good, because if people buy hydrogen fuel cells that do not meet the relevant standards, it can harm them. I hope that there would be clear standards in future. That's all I want. Thank you. Anything to respond to administration? Thank you, member. We will spell it out in subsidiary legislation and guidelines. Thank you. Alright, we have spent much time in discussions today. I will give a summary. I will ask the administration to provide a response after the meeting on the applicability or the application scope of the gas safety ordinance and the dangerous goods ordinance respectively. Can you prepare the materials? We may not go into details about the materials at the next meeting, but you should at least table them. And we would also like to seek the administration's clarification on how they will accommodate different applications of hydrogen at sea, in air. And I think Mr. Chen Su-hong has made some really good suggestions. For example, we can have the working group on developing low-altitude economy start reviewing legislation and take the lead. I think the administration can consider this suggestion, working with the working group as well as other departments. While we do want to be prudent, but we also need to be forward-looking, as some members said. We should look to extended applications such as pilot applications for island tourism. I think we need to see what kind of a starting point this bill's provisions will provide for the pilot applications like such. So we need to take a more macro perspective. We need to consider from the perspective of general policy. We also want the administration to follow up on some definitions. Many members have raised concern about the definitions. When we go into clause by clause examination, we will touch on such issues, especially when we have subsidiary legislation to be promulgated in future that will provide such definitions. At least the administration should provide a response. Alright, any other members who would like to speak on policy matters of the bill? If there are none, I will not start clause by clause examination today because it is almost time. We had very constructive discussions today. We will start clause by clause examination at the next meeting. I would like to remind members of the Bills Committee as well as representatives from the administration, we will make use of the marked up copy mostly, except for the long title, we will use the blue bill. So please have your marked up copies ready for the next meeting. Now, the next meeting will be held on 22nd of May, Thursday, 4:30 p.m. or 15 minutes after the LegCo meeting and time that day. And it will run until 6:30 p.m. So that's arrangements for the next meeting. Any other business, Mr. Tony Tse?
Chairman, since we've decided to invite the public to write in their views to us, so can I get a sense of the timetable as to when the clause-by-clause scrutiny will begin? We will issue the invitation for written views and then we'll close the invitation period 14 days from now. To facilitate our clause-by-clause examination work, we should also consider the public views. Right? I hope this message is also caught by the public, and if you have views, do write in as quickly as possible. Anything under AOB? If not, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.